to another episode of Control Alt Access. It's a video game accessibility video and audio podcast. I am one of your hosts, Laura. I go by Laura K. Buzz on the internet, and I'm here as ever with my lovely co-host Arevya. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Laura?
I'm good. We've not been around for a month because you've had busy life stuff going on.
I've been busy. Let's just say, yeah. I got married, so I legit have a husband now, and that feels weird and so amazing.
It never stops feeling special to be able to be like, that's the one I'm married to.
Yeah. I've been seeing him walking around with his ring. And every time I spot his ring, I'm just like, ooh, I did the right thing. Ooh, I got the ring on him.
I've been learning German recently and realizing that I know how to say in German, "You are my wife," "Du bist meine Frau," has made me very excited. I walk in a room and I just point and I'm like, "Du bist meine Frau."
But I've seen it. It's just something. Some people said there is no difference, and for us it has been a bit more I feel every time we do a big step together, if that has been moving in together or getting an apartment or engage or whatever, it just feels like we're more set in the relationship. We're now, it just feels even more, it's us, and we're just happy
it's nice
about
having
it.
that. It's really nice having that stability of I know that this isn't going away anytime soon, and that's really comforting.
And we just know that we are going to fight for the same and want the same in life and just enjoying life together. It's just been really, really lovely. And then I took a trip. I had some UK friends coming over here to the wedding, which I have met through streaming and stuff. So they would join our wedding, and then they joined us for a trip, camping trip, a cabin trip, up to the mountains of Norway, and we went on a really amazing walk into the mountains, the Norway is known for, and got to show them everything. And I have been away from everything. No game. I played board games. That's the most games I've been close
You're
to.
telling me you haven't come back with a list of 12 video games that you've got in-depth opinions about during your wedding break?
How dare I?
I'm so disappointed.
I know. Only thing is that I now have on my Christmas list that I'm going to buy the board game Pandemic, because oh my god, that's fun.
Oh, I'm a big fan of Pandemic
really,
as
really
a board
fun.
game. If you find yourself really enjoying Pandemic, a thing I would recommend is there is a story-based version of Pandemic called Pandemic Legacy.
Ooh.
And you play there's 3 seasons of it, but each time you do one, at the end of every game, depending on where things went well and where things went badly, you add new stickers to the board and new rules to the game, and so you might have to completely tear up components and add new cards to the deck, and it's a very interesting thing if you find yourself getting into Pandemic.
I think it sounds like something I need to look into, because it was fun. I enjoyed having a board game because I'm highly competitive, annoyingly highly competitive. So it's not fun for either me or anybody else to play games with me. So having a game where we play together, where I can actually chill and not feel the burning pit of hell in my stomach while playing was wonderful.
Me and my wife Jane have a good number of cooperative board games in our collection for that exact reason. It's every now and then it's okay, we put the competitive ones away and we have one where we can both win together.
Yeah. We in this together. But Laura, you have done a lot since I was away.
Oh, I have. I don't know how much of it I'm going to talk about, but I know I'm going to start by talking about this one. I can finally talk about the fact that I did accessibility consulting on Life is Strange Double Exposure.
Yes, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. So I'll jump into the story of how this happened, because this is years old of a story at this point, I suppose. I've been a fan of Life is Strange right since when the first series came out.
Yeah.
One of my first bits of freelance writing I ever did was a piece for Polygon about the second episode of the original Life is Strange deals with some very heavy themes at the end of its episode.
Yep.
And then straight away afterwards shows you a percentage of how many people succeeded or failed. And that was kind of hard for me at the time. And ever since then, I've loved this series with the caveat of it's not perfect. It's got its little issues here and there. And Back in September of 2021, I did an episode of Accessibility about Life is Strange True Colors, which was the last Life is Strange game, and wrote a bunch of stuff about like the various things I thought it was doing well, but also that I thought could be improved. Some of the stuff from that I can talk about publicly, because some of this I did some articles about, was things like the fact that there was a musical number in True Colors that like the captions just didn't say what was being sung.
Oh,
So if you were either playing in streamer mode or if you were deaf, the captions just there was like the main character was singing a song on a guitar and it was Creep by Radiohead. But if you couldn't hear it because of streamer mode or being deaf, you just didn't know the tone of what that scene was.
yeah.
Um, and you know, I brought these things up at the time and didn't really think much of it. But then in early 2023, I got an email. So this would be like a year and a bit later. I got an email from someone at Square Enix going, "Hey, we'd love to get you on as part of an accessibility roundtable for something we're working on. We can't tell you what it is. Please sign a lot of NDAs."
As always.
Um, yeah, so the kind of number of NDAs where it's like, oh, this is going to be something like big name because they're making me like sign that I will like lose my career if I tell anyone. um, and eventually I get told like, hey, it's a new Life is Strange game. Um, and I got to see this big document that was like, here's the new mechanic for this one where you're sort of shifting between parallel realities, and I was able to work out from that stuff that Max from the first one was coming back as the protagonist. Um, and the thing about this that was really exciting, and this was a first for me, this was like an internal confidential document about like here's what we're planning for accessibility and like what we're currently working on and why we think it's important. And my accessibility episode showed up like several times in there as like this video is where we learned that we should do this for the game. And I was like, oh, I helped.
It's so cool. I think that is a really good show, and I hope that people understand that if you have something on your heart, that you
Hmm.
means like, hey, this like it helps talking about it. It helps like
Yeah.
getting it out there. You never know who is going to see it and who is
That's
going to pick it
that's
up.
that's the thing. Like, I sometimes feel a little, some of the accessibility stuff that I put out, like, sometimes it gets good views, sometimes it doesn't. It never gets like the big mainstream numbers of
Oh,
views. But like that video is less than 2,000 views on YouTube, and
seriously?
it,
And they
yeah,
still
it's
got
it's
caught?
about, yeah, 1,800. I think it's about 1.8K, and that's like 3 years later. Um, but someone at Square Enix saw it and it got passed around the studio and they learnt from it and they brought me in to be like, here's what we're planning. Is this good? What can we work on? I was like, yay.
That I have a bit like shocked Pikachu face here, because I thought like you do great numbers on YouTube in a lot of things you do, and for some reason when you I thought this was one of those who did it really really well, who was like really controversial, so it started a lot of like it sparked a
Yeah,
lot
so
of
it,
talks.
it happens sometimes, but this wasn't one of those. This was just a video that got like a number of views, but just the right person saw it and passed it around. And
That's
I think it's one of those things that really is like, even if the things you're putting out like don't necessarily get huge views, you don't need huge views to have an impact
oh
on the way that games are made. You just need the right person to see
yes.
the thing that you're saying, and
Oh,
that can be enough to
100%.
change games in the future. But yeah, I can't say a lot about what happened in that meeting because NDAs being what they are, but I can say there were multiple accessibility consultants that were invited along, and it was basically here's an hour of us talking with the developers about various things that they'd been working on and approaches they had. And then I sent a bunch of written feedback afterwards about like additional thoughts on stuff. And then I heard nothing for about nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the game was announced and it had a bunch of accessibility stuff in there. And at least a few of them I can point at and go, I told them to do that and they did it. And the game's more accessible and I'm very excited about it.
That's really really fun. But
I'm still in the phase of being a bit giddy about it because it's one of my first like big name game credits, and I'm like, yay!
no, but you should. You should absolutely be giddy about it. We should celebrate these wins because it is. It's not only a win for you, it is also a big win for the community. This series has been a series that has been dear to heart to many disabled gamers, chronically ill
Mm.
gamers. So I think you have done really well, and I'm so proud of you.
Yay! So for anyone who's watching this who hasn't seen, I'm going to very quickly talk about, off the top of my head, the ones I can remember, some of the accessibility stuff in double exposure. Um, the Life is Strange True Colors had some options for if there was about to be loud noises or flashing lights, you could get warnings for those, which would sort of pause the game. You press when to continue, the thing happens. Um, Now you can still get those warnings, but if you just want to know that it's coming but you don't want to like interrupt the flow of the game, it doesn't have to pause the gameplay. You can just have the warning come up and the game keep going. Um, there is a bunch of content warnings for different things that might be difficult topics to deal with. You can set content warnings per topic, so you don't have to just be like all content warnings on. You can go find the things that are relevant to you and turn those on.
That's good.
For those, you can have the game pause or not pause when the content warning happens, depending on your preference. There is options for, if you've got stereo headphones on, being able to hear audio pings for where there are interactable things in the scene.
Nice.
You can make little visual icons pop up so that you can see where the interactables in the scenes are. When you're swapping between the two different parallel timelines, you can just make it permanently show on screen which timeline you're in, rather than appearing for a second and then going away.
Good.
And there's at least one more I want to talk about. I'm trying to remember it. You can skip portions of gameplay, and that includes things like if a puzzle requires too much reliance on vision, for example,
Yeah.
or requires pressing more than one button at a time. You can skip past a lot of different kinds of gameplay that might be a specific issue. So yeah, Life is Strange Double Exposure. The first couple of chapters are out now, and obviously take my praise with a a grain of salt because I worked on it and therefore can't be trusted. But I'm going to be able to point at my name in the credits of a game, and that's really exciting.
That's so wonderful. Well done.
But yeah, some other stuff. I don't know if I'm going to talk about necessarily everything I've played this month, but I do want to talk about one that I was really surprised was as accessible as it was. So Silent Hill 2 Remake released this month.
I can actually talk about it because I haven't played it myself, but I have watched my now husband, let me say that, a billion times, play it for hours upon hours upon hours. We had a time off, and he has just gone into Silent Hill and stayed there.
So I was skeptical about this game being accessible because I don't know. Do you know much about Bloober Team's previous games?
No, I actually do not.
So Bloober Team is a company that makes horror games, and they've previously made their own rather than remakes of other companies. And to put it politely, Bloober Team has a really bad track record with handling mental health themes in horror.
Ooh, okay.
Their last game was a game called The Medium, and without being too spoilery about it, the ending of that game really seems to imply if you've got a mental health issue, maybe the best thing you can do to not hurt anyone around you is maybe you just fucking end yourself.
Yeah.
Which is not great. It's not great. So I came into this very dubious of Bloober's ability to handle a remake of a game with very sensitive mental health themes in it.
Yeah.
And in that regard, very, very pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
Looking at the credits, they got a company called Hit Detection, I think they're called, that do lots of things like mock reviews and sensitivity consulting, and got lots of people in to do presumably sensitivity consulting, and they avoided some of the mental health pitfalls that Bloober has historically fallen into. But they also have I've never seen either Bloober Team or Konami as a publisher have a big accessibility suite like this in one of their games.
It's really cool.
Yeah, because when you boot it up for the first time, it has a big comprehensive list of content warnings.
Yep.
Then it has an accessibility menu on first boot, broken up by different categories. It includes things like when QuickTime events happen, do you want the icon to show you what button needs pressing and make it really big? Lots of different alternative font choices. Um, Puzzle and combat difficulty can be separately tweaked. There is high contrast mode support. It's not the best high contrast mode support I've seen in a game, but it's there and it's definitely helpful. Um, Things like aim assist, changing button holds into toggles. There's a lot of really good stuff in there.
It is really good, and they're also. I know there have been a lot of talk lately online about like the best colorblind design is to not need colorblind options, and I do
Yeah.
believe that. But this game have colorblind options, and I asked my husband like, "Does this help you?" Because he is colorblind, and he was just like, "The game is so much more pleasant to look at for me. It feels like I don't have to strain my eyes understanding what's happening on the screen." If it is, I wouldn't say it is perfect, but it helps him at least when he can regulate the intensity and stuff. I also think it's cool that they have some other design that I really like, especially quality of life decision they have done is that when you take up the map, you can see where you are. And I think that is really, really smart. You have a green little arrow that shows you where you are. I think that is just wonderful.
Yeah, I don't care that like it's not realistic that there's an icon moving around the map. I don't need it to be realistic. I need to know where I am.
Yeah, and it's just like at some point we are playing games. Like it's games. It's a game about like Silent Hill. So at some point it will be that. And I also really, really do like that this every save point in Silent Hill is ridiculously large red squares. You cannot miss them.
Yeah. And there's some stuff that just carries over from the original game that I think helps for accessibility. I really like the way this game annotates the map as you explore automatically.
Yeah.
So, like, if you find a dead end, it sort of scribbles it out, and if you find a puzzle that you can't solve yet, it'll not only, like, circle that room, but label what puzzle it was, like, oh, that clock puzzle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what one that is. And I really appreciate it, like, automatically doing all that.
Yes.
And
it also, I feel like with the map as well, it sort of makes it easier if you miss something. Because a lot of things I have been watching Björna play is that I've been just sitting doing my own stuff and he's been playing, but we are together in the living room. And then I don't pay attention to the game that much, but then I sometimes know something interesting is happening, or he asks me a question, can you help me with this and this puzzle? And then we watch it together. And then I feel like when he opens the map, I sort of understand what has happened as well.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of, the main character, I can't remember his name right now.
James Sunderland.
Yeah, James. He sort of writes what he thinks as well. So it's not just Hospital X. It's like, he like writes it in his, like what he thinks it is, which I think is
very
really cool.
conversational notes.
Yes. And this is something I have tried to say to a lot of game companies that I have consulted for, that you sometimes it's smart to sort of get this information down somewhere, because this interaction between the characters in the game, sometimes that can be missed, either because people just don't get the typical interaction points that normally other could. It can just be missed because for the developers it made sense, for everybody else it doesn't make sense because they are not in the developer's head and they don't know what will happen. And also just because when you play a game you can miss something, or it's like 10 days since you last time took up the game.
Yeah.
And I really, really enjoy it. It's a way they're showing how you can make accessible design.
Indeed. I know that we moved on from it, but this is just reminding me of a thing back from Life is Strange I want to talk about.
Yes.
But one of the things I really appreciate about Life is Strange Double Exposure is that it's got in your in-character phone, there is like a note-taking app for every single character you've interacted with that's not only like who are they and what is their like general backstory, but like notes on here's the things that have happened with them, and like from the character perspective, how did the character feel about that? What do I suspect them?
Yeah.
What did I learn? Like more stuff like that, where it's like let the characters what happened and the characters' thoughts on what happened. Make it findable somewhere.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And it just makes the whole design of the game goes a bit more smoothly. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think from what I'm seeing, I haven't like touched the game myself and played it myself. I was so happy when Bjornar literally screamed from the other room, "Elizabeth, come in here!" Because he was just like, "It has an accessibility setting, and you need to see this." And then we went through everything, and we're really really happy, both of
It
us.
it
And
it really surprised me as a game. Like I went from being like I'm skeptical they can avoid fucking up the mental health
yep,
themes to oh they seems to have like not only like done that okay, but added on them in interesting ways and become accessible. Bloober Team, who are you? What have you done with Bloober Team?
yeah, like and I think also this is maybe also the biggest misconception, I think, when I'm talking to the general public of gamers and developers. I think that's the biggest misconception for like general gamers, to think that devs don't want accessibility even when
Hmm.
like an old game. Every time I traveled to a lot of these like retro cons and retro
Mm.
expos, and I've been having like public speaking at some of the lectures and stuff at some of them.
Yeah.
And then I got to talk to people like Chris Marlowe from Rare.
Mm.
I've talked to John St. John from Duke Nukem. All of these old, Kevin Bailey, like all of these old school names that were, for if you're a millennial like me, they're like your
Yeah.
childhood. I have talked to these people and asked them about accessibility, and like every time I talk to them, they're just like, "Oh, you do accessibility? That is so cool." That is always they say. And second is, "I wish we could have added it to our games," because they now see the need for it, but the technology wasn't there 20, 30 years ago. And they like,
And
every time I talk to any one of them, they're just like, "Accessibility, yes, please. Yes, please."
yeah, it's so nice that like we're hitting that tipping point as an industry where like even companies that have historically come across as being a little not keeping in touch with what audiences are saying about their work is maybe a polite way to put it. Even those kind of companies are catching up on the fact that like no, accessibility is important and we should be learning the stuff we need to do in that regard.
Yeah.
And like when you're getting surprised by like, oh, I didn't expect that studio to like suddenly be on the right track, that's a good sign that like the industry itself is moving the right way.
And I'm like pleasantly surprised, but absolutely surprised that it's the horror genre that is
Yeah.
right now actually pointing like the way of accessibility. Between The Quarry, Dead Space, and now
Yeah.
Silent Hill, horror genre is just going like, "I'll show you what we can do."
There have been some really nice horror examples for sure. It's great to see. It's great to see a genre that is so generally focused on this is overwhelming, everything's
Yeah,
out to get you. Not see that as a reason not to be accessible.
I often feel though that the horror genre is quite the community is quite community. So like if you like it, and then you're really fan of everybody else liking it, so they want people to enjoy it because it isn't so many. But I am pleasantly surprised. I thought of all the things here in this world that in 2024 it would be the cozy games that would be most accessible, because
Yeah.
they are like cozy and often inclusive. But no, it's the games about really horrible stuff. That it's just like, we are mentally going to scar you, but we're going to do it in an accessible way.
Yeah. You deserve to be able to access our mental scarring of you.
Yes, yes. You want to not sleep for 2 days? You are allowed to do it, no matter who you are.
So I played a couple of other things I can very quickly talk about. I don't have a lot of accessibility thoughts on them. I've been playing a game called UFO 50, which is an interesting one. It is a collection of 50 pixel art indie games. But the idea is that they're all there's a fake 80s video game console that's sort of like a ZX Spectrum Commodore 64 called the UFO Soft. And all of these games are pretend first party games for this game's console that never existed. So like you'll sometimes see sequels to other games in the collection, or you might get to the credits and see a name scroll by and be like, "Oh, they made that game in the collection." And like themes running throughout them. But it's generally like a bunch of games that are all playable basically with a D-pad and two buttons
Cool.
for a fictional console. And much like any kind of anthology, particularly one with like 50 entries, not all of them are going to be perfect. Not all of them are going to be ones that I enjoy personally. But there is a surprising amount of games in there that I have really enjoyed and that have had really creative ideas with very simple controls that I've thought have been really fun. Um, a couple of examples off the top of my head. There was one that was almost a mix between Pac-Man and Splatoon, where you've got like a top-down maze and you're leaving paint behind you as you drive around this maze, but there's other cars driving around painting the maze, and you've got a time limit, and you need to have painted more of the maze than the other team by the end.
Oh, that's
So
fun.
you're trying to run over the other cars to stop them painting, get power ups so you can paint faster. Um, there's one that I played where you jump into a side-scrolling platformer level and you have like 20 lives, but you have like a couple of abilities you can use that will use up a life but will help you progress. Like fire yourself to the right and like embed yourself in the wall, and now you're a platform you can jump up on, or you can explode yourself to break a wall, or turn into stone to be a platform to walk over spikes. So you have to work out how to use the number of lives you have to progress through the level.
Mhm.
Lots of really interesting, creative little things like this that are none of them are going to be particularly lengthy to play through, but they don't feel balanced the way that like a lot of old games that were inspired by arcade games trying to take your coins feel.
Yeah,
Like they want you to progress through them, but they're very weird little fake retro games, which has been really fun.
that's fun.
And the last one that I've been having a good time with while we've been gone is Metaphor Re Fantazio, which is the new game from the Persona developers.
Oh, yeah, I was like, this sounds. Why does this sound familiar?
Yeah, so the best way I can explain this game is it is a game, it is a JRPG about trying to fight against oppression while also being a story about the fact that stories about fighting oppression don't really mean much unless you actually put into practice what you learn from them, and that sometimes it can be way too easy to enjoy stories about fighting against oppression rather than going out and doing it.
Oh, can we like show this to like 90% of the internet?
It's a really, really interesting story. It is set in a world where the short version, there's fantasy racism the way that you see in some fantasy stories where like, the people with the pointy ears don't like the people with the horns or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're basically trying to become king by learning about all of the different people's problems and trying to work out like it's not enough to know that there's oppression in this community. Like, I've got to go talk to the people and understand their cultures and like work out the work that needs to be done to fix this.
Cool.
But it's also a story about like a bunch of characters who how do I put this? There is a story that the main character keeps reading that is a story about a world without oppression.
Oh.
And the world without oppression that he's reading about is very clearly our real world, which is not a world without oppression.
No.
But you read the story and it's like, there's no this species with the pointy ears and this species with the horns. They're all just one people. And that, and without having magic and the horns and the pointy ears, everyone lived in a utopia
Yeah.
of no prejudice.
Yes.
And the point is kind of that like it's really easy to imagine that like if we just didn't have these couple of things separating us, then like humans would just naturally not oppress each other.
Yeah.
Like without the things we're oppressing each other for, we'd have nothing to oppress each other over. Where it's like, no, humanity is gonna find reasons to do this. It's unfortunate, it's true.
Yes.
It's not about imagining a world where those things don't exist. It's going, those things do exist. How do we make it so people understand those differences rather than hating them?
Yep.
All mixed in with like a very flashy JRPG battle system, and lots of turn-based battles. There's some cool stuff with the battle system, stuff like you've got a bunch of job classes, and you can basically change them for your characters at any time. And any of your moves you learn on one job class, you could slot into another. So you can do a lot of like, I'll be this job class just until I learn this one move, and then I'll go be a different job class, but I'll take my favorite move from that last one and stick it in my build.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's been real fun. I've enjoyed the acting and the visuals. It's the story that's really gotten me hooked.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It sounds like a fun new way of looking at it because some people need to learn that at the end of the day, it's the community work you do. It's the work you
Yeah,
do outside that matters. You have
yeah.
to go out and
You're
do
not
the
gonna
work.
fit. You're not going to fix things unless you go listen to people and let them tell you not just about why they're oppressed, but like go and learn
Yeah,
the experiences outside of the oppression of people who are oppressed, and to understand their culture more broadly and understand how various cultures fit together.
yeah. Talk to humans and be humans together.
Exactly. So yeah, that's everything I've played this week. Shall we jump over to the news?
Yes.
Audio accessibility has been announced for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Persona 3 Reload gets new accessibility features as part of episode Aegis. Star Wars Outlaws gets new accessibility improvements in Update 1.2. And the full lineup for GAconf USA has now been revealed. So, where do we want to start on the news this week?
Let's start on the top. Let's start on the top.
Let's start at the top, sure. So, Call of Duty, which has been improving its accessibility the last couple of years, they added in high contrast mode in single player last year, has announced some of the accessibility features that are going to be coming to the next game, announced as part of a Call of Duty blog earlier this month. Most of the stuff that was announced this month in the blog post was to do with audio, a couple of different types of audio support. One is that they're adding support for M-Body's immersive spatial audio technology, which is a basically 3D audio tech that can be used with any pair of stereo headphones. You don't need a particularly special one, to help you identify where in 3D space sounds are coming from. And this is paired with something they're calling a priority system, so that you can make sure that specific sounds not just happen to be louder, but that, like, if two sounds play at the same time, which one do you want to take priority?
Yeah.
Like, which sounds do you want to make sure always overpower other sounds they're competing with? For things like other players sending you commands, or like gunshots are coming from over here. That they'll like quiet other things down if they need to make sure that that sound comes through really clearly. There's also support for players with tinnitus, being able to turn off tinnitus sounds that can help set that off. You can also change your hearing by ear. So it's not just audio sliders for like what is the overall volume of certain sounds. You can go, I've got better hearing in this ear than that ear. Can I tweak the audio to make it better balanced? So you can do things like, if you struggle with high pitches in your left ear, you can turn them down. If you've lost a lot of your mid-range in your right ear, you can boost that range of frequencies so that, like, it sounds more normal. Those sounds sound more normal without getting them louder in your good ear. Really, really good set of audio cues here. Really nice stuff to see.
I think it's really cool. I don't think, and maybe that's on me, but I don't think I've seen anybody doing this before. Like where you individual per ear could actually change sound.
Yeah, it's not a thing I've seen done in games. I have a pair of fancy headphones that I use sometimes. I have my one fancy pair of headphones that like tests your hearing per ear by like playing sounds and seeing what bounces back. And that those headphones I have can tweak your audio per ear based on what frequencies each ear hears well. But I've never seen a game offer you tools for that, and I think
No.
that's really cool.
It's cool. And in a game like Call of Duty, I think it's also maybe more needed than other games. So yeah, they've seen their audience and I've given them something they believe they can actually use. So that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, beyond that, we've got Persona 3 Reload, which came out Gosh, was it earlier this year? It might have been end of
Yeah,
last year.
yeah, I think it
It
was
was a
earlier this year.
I think it was earlier this year, but time flies. It's weird. Uh, Persona 3 Reload is getting episode Aegis as DLC, which is some
Yes.
content that was in the PSP version of the
Yeah.
game when it originally came out. You play as a separate DLC character called Aegis, who can do different things like summoning personas and then using them later in battle. But Aegis has guns for hands that can be used to fire at enemies at a distance, and what they've done to make that more accessible is they've got auto-targeting options, which weren't in the original game. So you can now lock on to the nearest enemy as long as Aegis is facing in roughly the right direction,
Yep.
and a big sort of red lock-on crosshairs will appear, rather than you having to necessarily manually aim to shoot at these enemies while in the overworld.
Yes.
So that's really good.
That's cool. We're getting
There's other
difficulties. I like
Yeah,
that.
so there was already in Persona 3 Reload like some difficulty options. With this one they're adding some new options. The main one is they're adding a really hard additional optional difficulty at the top end. But again, more options for difficulty, more ways to play how you want to play.
Yes.
If you happen to be great at the turn-based battles but struggle at the first-person shooting, you can turn your turn-based battles up, but you've got auto aim with your open world gun stuff. So yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm glad to see another example of adding more accessibility over time and recognizing when new content you add to the game creates the need for new accessibility to be added.
Yep. And also
Um,
a genius showing of it's never too late.
exactly.
Yeah.
Never too late. We've also got Star Wars Outlaws, another example of a game getting more accessibility over time because it's never too late to add more.
Yep.
Stealth in the game has been made more accessible. You can now do things like being less easily discovered while in stealth, making sure that you can do things like auto accelerating and auto brake alongside the auto walk function. You can now automatically vault over certain small objects rather than having to like press a button to do that. You can make your adrenaline rush setting, which is where you like slow down time to have longer to aim at things. You can make that twice or even 3 times as long. So you've got more time to take your time aiming. Some of the menus have been shuffled around a bit to make it easier to find the things that people might be looking for. Particularly with text-to-speech narration for the menus, making it easier to find the things you're probably looking for first if you use that setting.
Yeah.
There were some issues with the game previously where audio description occasionally got cut off accidentally during certain cutscenes, which is fixed. And generally just fixing up the audio descriptions and the voiceovers and things to tidy them all up. There is an option for larger prompts that shows up when you first start the game. New larger fonts for subtitles and bold text options. Directional arrows for subtitles so you can tell what direction the speaker came from.
I really like that in God of War.
Yeah, I really appreciate that a lot. It's in a lot of Ubisoft's games,
Yeah.
and I was a little surprised it wasn't in this one. I'm glad to see it has been added now.
Yeah.
Just a bunch, nothing to complain about there. Just a game that already had good accessibility has added more, and that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, 100%. And
Uh,
last on the list, GAconf USA is right around the corner, 28th to 29th of October.
Gosh, yeah, that'll be before our next episode. Yeah.
So if you are in the States, you can travel there and meet a lot of other game accessibility nerds. And if you don't want to travel there or can't travel there, you can watch it live online. And now it finally has been revealed, the whole lineup. I'm going to be one of them, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to work. I have done a small little talk together with Easy Surf, which both me and Laura works for, which is a consultant firm in game accessibility. So that will be really, really cool. And a lot of a lot of cool things. If you are like even just slightly want to learn about accessibility, this is like the place to go and learn. And every single year, even though I nerd so much about it and I feel sort of, oh, I know everything, every single year I'm there, I learn something new. Every single year.
Agreed. And there's so many interesting talks on there. As you say, there's you're doing that talk with some of the folks from Easy Surf. One I'm excited to see is overanalyzing and synthesizing, creating the accessible Metroidvania experience of Periphery Synthetic. This was one of the games I showed off at the Accessibility Summer Showcase this year. That is a open world exploration game in space that is a non-violent Metroidvania that you can play just based on audio cues. And I'm really excited. I'm so glad that this developer is getting to do talks and is getting some attention, because this is the game at the show this year that almost didn't make it, and I made the developer a trailer to be like, no, your game's too interesting. People need to know about it. I'm making a trailer. I'm putting you in.
Come here, show it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that like since then more and more he's been getting more opportunities to talk about his game, because I'm like, oh, you're doing such interesting stuff.
And
But yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. I just want to say it because it's a talk that's called the Accessibility to Burnout Pipeline. And with having 2 weeks off, it hit me some today that like maybe I need to maybe take a bit more care of myself in the form of like what the work we do is really hard. It is a never-ending battles, and I've been feeling a lot that I've been failing a bit this year. That is just how it is. Sometimes you just feel like that. And just seeing other people talk about it, I think it will be really good. I hope that like we can now see that we're not alone. A lot of us I hear a lot of people talking about getting burned out, talking the same talks, taking the same fights all the time. So I'm actually really looking forward to hear that talk. Maybe I can get some tips. Maybe I can be a bit motivated, and maybe I can be a bit inspired to understand that it's not just me.
The last one, there's so many good ones on there I could talk about. The last one I want to give a little shout to is hashtag open for Naughty Dog, Brandon Cole's Enduring Legacy, which is a roundtable being done by 4 blind accessibility consultants and content creators, talking about Brandon's impact personally and on the industry. And I think that's going to be real special. That's going to be a heavy watch, but I am glad it's being given some space. Yeah, this is all on the 28th to the 29th. You can look up GAconf.com. We'll put it in the video description. We'll put a link there. So you can find the schedule of when everything's happening. There is a Discord you can join to chat with other people during all the talks.
I'm going to be in that Discord all day when it's happening, since
I am planning to be as well. That is the plan. So yeah, I think that's all the news for this week. So, nice quick episode this week, but that is all of the news. Arevya, I believe you have a question that people can answer and might get read out on the show next week.
Which talk are you looking forward to the most of GAconf? Or actually also, which talk did you enjoy the most?
Exactly, you might have already seen it by then. So either which one are you looking forward to, or which did you enjoy the most? Let us know your thoughts either in the YouTube comments or on social media, or at control-alt-access-podcast@gmail.com. Wherever you happen to find us, let us know what you think, and you might get read out on the next episode.
Yeah. Laura, where can I find you if they want to follow you anywhere else?
They can find me at Laura K Buzz at most places on the internet. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon. Just find me at Laura K Buzz. You can find me, what have I got at the moment? If you go to YouTube, you can watch VODs of my playthrough of the first 2 episodes of Life is Strange Double Exposure. I will be streaming the remaining episodes of that on Wednesday the 30th of October. I will be streaming all the remaining episodes in one very long stream. Other than that, I have an accessibility review of Silent Hill 2 Remake that is up now. I also have on YouTube some reaction videos of me rewatching an anime called Wandering Sun. It's the show that I watched 15 years ago. I watched all the episodes in one night and came out as trans that same day. Join me in rewatching that show and realizing there's way more trans characters in it than I thought, and that I was very tunnel visioned into not seeing multiple trans people at once. That's a fun journey. What about you, Arevya? Where are you at on the internet?
They can find me under Arevya everywhere online except for TikTok because somebody stole my name and there I am, Arevya Gaming. I will come back to now. Well, when you hear this, I will already have done a stream, which is my Wednesday streams when I do come study with me, do the Pomodoro method, and then we write an accessibility document so you can learn more about accessibility. But Friday evening and Sunday, we're going to do Mario Party. If you want to see this girl up in Princess Peach again, we are going to do Mario Party. And then I will be back with more fun things, short content I have been thinking out when I've been away. But there is still a bit hush-hush around it, but there will be a lot of fun things coming up. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and listening. And we will be back with another episode in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.